Well, hello everybody. I'm going to give it that minute to let people log on. I want to do this video. It's probably one of my greatest, not discoveries, but piecing together of realities. And what was really beautiful about this was that AI had a hand in it. And as I started putting in inputs the other day, a lot of great works were pulled out. Great works I've never read. I just finished one of George Orwell's great works, and actually I'd never heard of it as a Canadian. I'd never even heard of it in any academic sense, not in university education. Mind you, I went to economics. I didn't go into arts or any of that, or any of those programs, or theater or drama. I did an economics degree. And maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But I don't really know of that book, The Road to Megan Pierce. I've never heard of it before. And I got to reading it. But AI chose that. They chose a number of books, one Russian author and two UK authors that hit these topics all the way back early 1900s through to the 30s, and then of course post World War II. And ironically, folks, you don't hear much more in the field of authorship on these issues. And I think the biggest issue of our time, and then again, for those who are going to sit into this, I grew up in a constitutional monarchy. I was institutionalized in it. I went through it like everybody else. Americans have a hard time grasping these concepts, as I've learned Russians do too. I've done polls of great academics from the United States, and actually two from Russia that I have no more contact with at this time, not for 2 years. But I did a number of polls a few years ago with Russians and Americans and Canadians. And it's kind of funny. I got 750 participants. It was pretty cool. It was done on Twitter. And the Americans and Russians went at it. But it was funny how things come out. But I want to hit this topic of socialism and the word equality. You'll always find socialism and equality closely embedded. But folks, I guarantee you in the world of legal speak, I had the great fortune a number of years ago during the COVID pandemic. I got a one-on-one with the world's current greatest legal mind in legal speak. And I got 7 minutes of his time to ask several questions. And this is the world's current living greatest legal speak master in the world. Everybody unanimously points to this individual, and I was blessed with 7 minutes of his time. He taught me about distinguishing dictionaries, distinguishing countries, narratives, and languages spoken before you, especially in international law, especially in legal speak, on multi-nations when you put them in a grouping. So when we talk about things like socialism and equality, did you know that those terms narrated in the United States of America do not in any way, shape, or form match any Oxford publications? None whatsoever. Americans use the Webster definition, whereas Canadians, citizens which are subjects of the UK, use UK Oxford, and again Canada has Canada's Oxford. When it comes to the definition of socialism via America, via UK or Canada, are completely different. In fact, the term equality, which is closely embedded, you can't get into socialism without first analyzing equality. And I guarantee you, folks, if you go to Webster's, equality is not defined in the American tradition any way, shape, or form matching that of UK's or Canada's Oxford. Both versions, Canada, UK, are identical. More than that, there is the Russian Lexigalos. That's the Russian dictionary and all Russian terminologies, their concepts and their language, how they view things. Did you know that socialism and equality, again, very important terms when dealing with socialism, equality, they go hand in hand. Russia doesn't define equality and socialism any way, shape, or form the same as America or the United Kingdom and Canada. And folks, we're dealing with a system of republics, two distinguishable types of republics, and a constitutional set of monarchies. The monarchies define socialism and equality the same way, whereas the republics, completely opposite. What do I mean by that? When we look at science, when we look at economics and many other things, we can go into medical, we can go into all kinds of fields, especially in the scientific. There are two types of analyses done, folks. There's qualitative and quantitative. Okay? When we deal with equality, we talk about people, no matter how they're defined. In all of these three countries, these three powerful countries, we're going to take America, we're going to take the United Kingdom, we're going to take Russia. Big world stage powers. They're the United Nations Security Council. 3 of the 5 permanent United Nations Security Council members. They have a veto, they have all kinds of powers in the world, and they have histories in our world. Some longer than others, some as powerhouses, very fresh, very recent, post-World War II. Folks, when we take equality, talking about equality and how people view equality, monarchies define equality as a quantity. And more so than that, monarchies divide everybody into class, specifically 3 classes of people, and they assign a quantity in equality. They say equality is about quantity. The first class gets the most quantity. That's how they get equality. That class has a distinguishable quantity than the next class, and even more so than the lowest class. In fact, they take away all quantity from the final class, which is the savage class. This has always been constitutional monarchies. They narrate classes of people, for one. Unlike both Russia and America, you go to Webster's, there is no class in socialism. And in equality, there definitely isn't any class. This is both American Webster's and the Russian Lexigalos. Neither of them define class. That's removed entirely. And the way they assign quantity is really different. In fact, America doesn't assign quantity at all. At all. In Webster's, the narrative of equality is the word itself, quality. It's not quantity, it's quality. Meaning everybody has the same quality. There's no classes. Everybody's born in the narrated system of the We the People Republic. And as Webster's always has defined it, as America has always defined its citizens, not subjects, they say it's about the quality of people being the same. Regardless of your quantity, it's your responsibility to find your quantity. But you will all be treated, regardless of what you hold in quantity, you're all of the same quality. That's the definition in the United States of America. Now, Russia took a whole different path. They said, enough of the class, we're going to remove all the class, and like the UK and the monarchies, we believe in quantity, not quality. We say everybody should have the same quantity, no class. Doesn't matter how much higher quality of a person you strive to be, you will always get the same quantity. That's how they distinguish equality. Having the same quantity, all individuals, regardless of how much quality they bring to the table. UK says, never mind quality, it's quantity depending on your assigned class. America says, never mind quantity, it's quality of what the individual brings forward. Everyone is the same quality, and from there they determine their own quantity by how much they're willing to put of themselves forward. Do you see the difference here, folks? Do you see how socialism isn't the same defined for Americans? It's definitely not the same for Russians. And we see USA and Russia butt heads over it. We can all extrapolate from that. You can look at it and it makes sense. Now, UK says we're like Russia in quantity, but we distinguish ourselves from the United States by setting a system of class, and we rig the quantity so that people can strive to enter a class, and then they get that quantity. And of course, it's all subsidized by the taxpayers, where there is no taxation with representation. It's why America broke free from monarchy. We have two styles of republics that broke away from the monarchical systems. There's the United States of America, a we the people republic, where the people are all of the same quality, and as individuals, they use that quality to determine how much quantity they're going to create for themselves and their families and their friends. Russia said, no, we're going to remain in the quantity where everyone gets the same quantity regardless of how much quality they put into things. We're going to make quality quantity based so that everybody gets the same regardless of their differences or what they put into their lives or they invest of themselves into the system or into bettering themselves. Doesn't matter, same quantity, regardless. UK says class. Everybody gets a set quantity depending on your class. You can strive to lift yourself out of a class, but again, it's always impossible for so many at the bottom class because you'll never achieve. There's only so much quantity in your class to be able to take that step to the next class. Only a small percentage can ever get there. And we go up to first class. And ultimately, a lot of it's hereditary, or it's family related, or friends. It has nothing to do with the quality of the person or the quality of what the person brings to the table. In fact, we can look at our politicians and you see many are uneducated, incompetent, corrupt, and it's all a buddy-buddy system. That's how it works. Look at King Charles. Nobody ever addresses this. There are many, many publications long since buried. I don't think anyone's ever even heard of that book of George Orwell's. I got all that from AI. Just putting in the research I've done, I've got another 3 publications that AI says this is what you need to read. This is going to help deliver you in going forward. This video is a tremendous amount of truth, a tremendous amount of knowledge. It goes into communism, it goes into constitutional monarchies, and we the people republics. We the people republics and communist republics are just that, republics. They have an equality about them, a certain level of socialism, but defined completely different. They both remove class. One does quality of the person, the other does quantity for all persons. UK does quantity, but in the classes. Both America and Russia, in their forms of government, are both rebellious of the monarchies. They're just two different outcomes. One took equality to be quality of the individual. The other took assigned quantity to every individual. Complete different paths, two republics based on the people. Which is right, which is wrong? Well, I think I know which one I like. I like the idea of people striving to be the best they are, and they get rewarded for that. I understand in society you need to take care of those who can never get there. There's never going to be an equality of people. It doesn't mean you armbar people to lower their quality or punish them for their quality or take their quality of the individual away to make sure everybody gets the same quantity. You need to have a system where everybody strives to be better. But in class is a whole other socialism. There's always a lower class that has to produce tremendous quantity that gets reassigned into the next class, and then they pay it forward to the first class. And hardly ever is it ever about individual quality. It's quantity assigned to each class, and that is the malfunction of the very socialist, extremist, fascist constitutional monarchy system that is repeated all over the world. It's the same scenario over and over. Two revolutions against that, very new to the world, really. We the people republics, America being the first example. You can argue with one other country, but America is the big example, the major successful example. Switzerland's there too, but it's much smaller. But that's a we the people republic based on quality, a new concept that was never available in any monarchy then or now. And that's a strong indicator of a socialism, a terrible socialism. Now, communism was a different kind of revolution, and not very long in our past at all, folks. It's the newest member on the block. And it said, well, we're going to follow the monarchical sense of quantity. We're just going to remove the class. So there's no privileged class. People are going to just want to aspire to be better, but we all share the quantity in one class. I don't believe that. I don't think that works. But know your differences. Know the truth. This is Socialism and Equality 401. What a Canadian talks about in socialism is nowhere near comparable to what an American talks about when they talk about socialism and equality. And no Russian or communist Chinese or civil law socialist like Russia now today or France today, they don't narrate socialism and equality any way, shape, or form near what an American does or any member of a constitutional monarchy. And people need to know these concepts. They're huge. It says a lot. And if people start looking at this, it'll all start to come together and make sense. Please share the video. It's a tremendous education. Lots of books to read if you want to know more about this. Not a whole lot after World War II, but there is actually a tremendous amount written by lots, especially from the UK. Surprised or not, even George Orwell. It's an interesting book. I bust Pierre Poilievre, easily Justin Trudeau, easily Jagmeet Singh in many of their speeches. As of late, I've got Pierre Poilievre, complete phony, complete liar, and he trips up in his words, as monarchical nutjobs always do. They're always about the class, and they're always about assigned quantity, the mark of socialists. And in monarchies, it's always national socialist, fascist. They always get there. It's a power, a control, a slaving system, and a forced socialism. It's what bred the United States of America in its we the people narrative. It's also what bred communism, folks. Two different variables coming out of one system, a broken system. And that's the truth. Share. Get it out there. Take the time. Take the words. Take the dictionaries. Go look for yourself. It's huge. It's important. It's enlightening. That's for those who want to be awakened or woke. Because either narrative they want to use, you're not really either. When you're talking like you're an American or you're talking like a leftist from a communist country or a civil law socialist country, you're none of those things. You're not the American version the conservatives like to hold on to, and you're definitely not the Russian or the civil law socialist, we would go communist China or civil law socialist Russia or the civil law socialist France. You are not in that narrative. And it's all defined there. And I can bring forward tremendous authors from the United Kingdom of our past. George Orwell, that was pulled immediately. Just the inputs I'd put in, the work I've been doing. Immediately, that was the number one flag. I've got two more. Another UK academic that's still alive today. He's relatively elderly now today. Written many works. He's done lots of this, going into the 40s. And, of course, there's Russian, too. And it's exciting. It's pretty cool to see that. Learn it, know it, share this beautiful truth. It'll help bring people together, and maybe it will waken people up or woken people up, whichever narrative they want to use, because it's not the same as they think it is, not when you look at the real definitions. And I think that is the big problem here today. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Bye now.